Welcome everyone to the Minions of the Zoo Tuesday edition, and I'm your keeper this evening, Skep Tock, and with me I have Prospero the Minion. How you doing,
Hello.
Prospero? Oh yeah, I hope you're having a good evening. It's been quiet around the Skep Tock household. We had water from the sky. That
Oh yeah.
was amazing to see, and we had a storm to go with it, including a tornado,
Oh
a
yum.
legit tornado that went through my front yard,
Oh crap.
ripped the doors off my the we have these big wooden doors that if you swing them both open, it's like a double garage. Okay, and that opens this drive on the side of our house, and those were ripped open. Those were ripped open, and a 3/8 inch thick steel, not iron, steel bar was snapped by the wind. It tore the latches right off. And I had these heavy duty trash cans. We found the bottom of one of the four trash cans. None of the lids, and three trash cans, they're out of town.
Uh huh. They're in
It's
Louisiana
got,
somewhere.
and this isn't it. This was not a tornado that would get an F number or anything like this. This is there was a big one nearby.
An F
That
Zero, in other words.
Yeah, well, no, it's not even F-Zero. It's but what it is, we get these very powerful cyclonic winds that get spawned off the tornadoes themselves, and that's what this was. This was a little sister tornado that came down and ripped the front off my house. Fucking hell.
Well, I'm glad that's the only damage it did. I
Yeah.
mean, trash cans, doors like
It didn't
that
kill a dog or a
didn't kill a
person.
dog, didn't tear the garden to shit, didn't rip your roof off,
Yeah.
drop your walls on your head.
Yeah, that's a good point. So anyway, that's been the big excitement around here has been the weather. What was the old thing about common men talk about? The upshot was that sophisticated people talk about ideas. More educated people talk about people, and the least educated talk about events. That's what it is: events, people, and ideas. And here I am talking about events,
That really
showing
actually
myself.
though sounds though like one of those self-congratulatory constructs where people consider themselves beyond the plebeian, so
What?
they're
Where did that come from? Because that's like 18th century. That thing about sophisticated people talk about ideas. Yeah, that's what it is. Great minds discuss ideas. Average minds discuss events. Small minds discuss people. The words are attributed to Eleanor Roosevelt, who stole them. Okay, this is not a good article. Not everything on the internet is true. Anyway,
oh damn it.
dang it! Yes, Eleanor Roosevelt did write that into. I think it was in an interview for the Saturday Evening Post.
But
Is where that came from.
I feel reasonably justified now in my belief that it was self-congratulatory.
That she picked it up because Eleanor Roosevelt, forgotten but not gone.
Yeah, really.
Man. Yeah. What? But the idea was old before Eleanor was born, and I've heard it's one of those concepts that gets packaged in a number of ways. It's like a remake of an age old theme, kind of like what was the remake of Pygmalion? My Fair Lady, right? Wasn't that
Yes,
kind of a Pygmalion
it is.
redo?
It's Pygmalion for the stage.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's so In other news, in talking about ideas, the idea that Joe Biden is actually going to run. They're actually going to put him up. They're hoping he can run and beat Trump, and he probably can. He is very close. I mean, it's like 43 and 43 right now. 43%, 43% if you look at all the polls. The independents would normally call this, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Democrats are going to be so well organized that
Yeah,
they're
it'll
going to
be.
have, the amazing mail-in votes that they suddenly produce that are 100% for their candidate are going to come in. And I actually think that the Republicans will
I think 120% will come in.
be hard-pressed in this election. Be
Yeah.
very hard-pressed.
Well,
And
I mean, there are some apparatchiks in the Republican Party that are trying to do the beat the streets, get out the vote, along the same model that the Democrats have used, but they don't have the
the zeal.
well, they don't have the proper
zeal.
they don't have the proper fortifications, is how I was going to put it.
Not smoking enough dope is what you're saying, or what?
No, they don't have the proper apparatus for fortifying elections.
Oh! I see what you mean. They don't have the proper technique.
Yes.
It's a matter of technique, really.
It is a matter of technique.
Everything they're doing is legal, Everything that the Democrats did was legal. They did nothing dishonest.
Well, there is at least one judge that begs to differ, but
No. Everything they did was above board and fine. And you know what? Standard deviations can be wrong sometimes. Math isn't always the same way every time.
no.
Numbers don't always work the same way every time.
If I can do something 1,000%, 120% of people living in a county can vote.
Exactly, and there's nothing wrong with a 2.5 or 3 standard deviation exception rate from Democrats to Republicans. There's just a whole bunch of Democrats. That was the only place in the country, the only place in the history of the United States that Democrats have ever voted like that. In that many numbers. That was amazing.
Wisconsin set a record.
Oh my gosh! Yes.
They were almost five full standard deviations.
174,000 votes, and 1,100 were Republican. Madison doesn't vote that way, and Madison's the most liberal spot in the state. Madison, 20% of the people voted for Trump. It was when I was doing the calculation, when I was actually running the standard deviation, and I looked at it and it said it was the variance. I actually may have said that I may have misspoke and said the variance was 6. The actual standard deviation is about 3, but that's still too many. That's 2 over where you say discard the default
here.
Yeah, discard the default hypothesis and seize the alternative hypothesis because something's going on. Well, this isn't 3 times worse. This is like 300,000 times worse. That's actually not really an exaggeration at all, because that is all nonlinear. That when you get to 2 standard deviations,
exponential.
You are to the point where you need to win the Powerball 5 times in a row to duplicate the possibility that is due to random chance. And 3, no. There's a reason that doesn't happen in nature. It does not happen in nature.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Just doesn't.
I know, but
the Democrats, boy, they pulled it off that one time.
Don't let Mark Zuckerberg hear you say that, because you'll end up in the naughty box.
No. I'm admiring the Democrats for what they did.
They'd get out the vote and the ballot harvesting, which is all perfectly legal.
Absolutely.
I don't know
the way the Democrats do it. If Republicans do it, it's going to be illegal. But if Democrats do it,
it's legal.
They always do it legally because why? They're Democrats.
And they're better than us.
They are better than us. That's a great point.
Yeah, Anna Kasparian was so right.
Oh, God.
Do you remember Carol Burnett doing the spoofs of
Yeah.
movies?
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah, I believe she did.
Gone with the Wind was the classic.
Yes, but I believe she did one of Random Harvest called Rancid Harvest.
Rancid Harvest.
And that's whenever I think of ballot harvesting, that's what I think of. Rancid Harvest.
That's funny. What was Random Harvest about?
God, if I remember. It was one, it was one of those melodramatic, soppy films that I never bothered to see.
Was that like a 40s movie?
I believe so. Random Harvest.
1942.
42, yeah. Ronald Coleman, yeah, I thought that was Greer Garson.
You know what? I always love to go and look and see who the supporting actors were.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you find a lot of future stars. Let's see, but not here.
Well,
no, I don't see anybody who is Philip
Ronald
Thorne,
Coleman
Susan
and
Peters.
Greer Garson were both.
Well, yeah. Those the headlines.
Reginald
are fine.
Owen.
I told you I was looking at the supporting actors.
Yes, but Reginald Owen.
Reginald Owen, I recognize. Henry Travers, I recognize.
Yes.
Bramwell Fletcher, who is that?
I have no
Philip
idea.
Dorn, Susan Peters.
Ian Wolfe was in it.
Getting better billing than Reginald Owen is, so just probably that has to do with it being 1942.
Peter Lawford.
Peter Lawford's not in this, was he?
Yeah, he played a soldier, random soldier.
Oh, that's funny.
It's always interesting to go down and see when people were starting movie careers. Excuse me, but no.
I was looking at this next Ronald Coleman Greer Garson vehicle, Tilfidit's Host.
What?
Tilfidit's Host. Ronald Coleman and Greer Garson. I'm looking through movie posters.
Oh.
There's another one for Random Harvest for general exhibition. I like old movie posters. I think they're kind of amazing. Another triumph from Metro Golden Mayer, the producers of Mrs. Miniver. Random Harvest. Great fun.
Yeah, Carol Burnett did do Rancid Harvest because, of course, you have to have the Ronald Coleman impersonation by Harvey Korman.
Of course.
He was rather good at that. He could do some decent impersonations.
He was an immensely talented man.
He was. He couldn't keep a straight face, but he was quite talented. His gable was rather good in that.
I thought it was spot on. Actually, yeah.
And I just love the fact they got Dinah Shore to play Melanie Hamilton, Melancholy Wilkes. Oh, Lawsy me! It was an impressive. That was an impressive ensemble.
It was. That was
Lightning in a Bottle, man. There's some moments from 70s TV that are nothing but lightning in the bottle.
Lyle Waggoner was considered a very talented man, very talented actor, and he was the fourth most talented person in that show.
Mm-hmm. And Vicki Lawrence was a total unknown. Absolute total unknown when she was chosen.
Sorry, fifth for poor Lyle. I forgot about Vicki.
Yeah, but she ended up being one of the premier
She was
performers.
amazing.
Yeah, she was.
She was. I think she was even better at that role than Carol Burnett was. Carol, for playing it straight, for playing Mama straight,
Oh yes,
I thought she was amazing.
yes, she was, and she had a preternatural ability to not laugh.
Yes.
Even Carol would lose it. Well, Tim Conway ruined. I mean,
Yeah, Tim Conway could break everybody up
yeah,
except for Vicki Lawrence.
yes, and he almost got her with that elephant skit about the Siamese twin elephants connected to the
She
trunk.
does look away. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, she looks
she
away
looks
a
away
lot.
with this kind of placid look on her face that you know that she's about to laugh.
Yeah, and then
I know
she
just
got
what you're talking
she
about.
did the downturned mama mouth,
Yeah, right, exactly.
which is a good way to keep yourself from.
Leans back over and into it and forces the frown down.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just love the fact that it's just is that little shit finished. Because
That little shit finished.
yeah, it was great, and why they couldn't use it, but why it lives in glorious outtake memory.
Part of the fun of that skit, I think, was coming from a Southern family and knowing how Southern people live and talk and interact. And that was what they got spot on for, as far as I was concerned.
Well, the passive aggressiveness
Yes.
of Southern women, mothers in particular, was agonizingly spot on.
You ever heard? Have you ever seen the movie or play Cat on a Hot Tin Roof?
No, I have not. I've kind of avoided it.
You might be wise, and I'm not going to tell you to go see it because it's depressing. It just will make you hate me for suggesting it, so don't see it. But it having sat through it, having endured it, you understand all those people and what they're doing and why they're that way, why they talk that way, why they feel that way. If you grew up in the South in a certain period, basically the time that you and I grew up, or the
Earlier.
generation before. Yeah.
Yeah, well, Tennessee Williams exercised a lot of personal demons in his writing.
You think?
And then they were still chasing him. But, you do kind of understand that in a world populated by people like that, it's no wonder he drank.
Well,
the quiet alcoholism of the Southern male.
it's
Just
it's not alcoholism. Yeah, it's
self-protection.
I'm thirsty.
I'm thirsty and I need my mind to be numb.
That's it, boy. That's the truth.
None of this is going on. Please, God, tell me that this isn't really happening.
We'll say hi to chat real quick. I see Lisa is here. Hey, Lisa. Spud Gun is here. We are. Tall Person is here also. Nice to see you guys.
Hello.
And thanks for coming to listen to us tonight. And they're talking about. Let's see, Spud Gun. Oh, I can't do that here. I forgot what. Here, I'm fine. I'm just having a senior moment.
It's all fine. Everything's just fine.
All right, let's see. Yeah, Spud talking about the heat and 3 SDs. 3 standard deviation is basically this is what I wanted to show from Spud Gun. 3 standard deviation is basically impossible. That is absolutely correct. 3 standard deviations is winning the Powerball 5 days in a row, 5 direct times that you play, and doing that for 5,000 years. Every day winning the Powerball. That's what 3 standard deviations is. That's the kind of crazy you're talking. That was bullshit. I get mad every time I think about Wisconsin.
Yes.
I mean, that was something that should have gotten a close examination, and it absolutely was shoved in. I'm not saying they did anything wrong. I'm not saying anything could have improved, but it had the appearance of looking like shit, as
Yes,
far as
it
I've been
did.
concerned.
And it's, and of course, it was, in my opinion, rather sloppy. And as a result, you almost are like, well, it certainly gave everybody their talking points for the next 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a little difficult to begin to wonder whether some of this isn't by design. Let's rub it in their faces and then call them paranoid.
Jeez. You know, things happen for reasons, but the reasons are supposed to be more complicated than that.
I understand, but unfortunately, with the simple-minded,
You're not wrong. You are absolutely right on the beam.
because I posted a thread on Twitter
Mm.
yesterday that was interesting. That was about the glowies and the wonderful work they do on the internet and in
Mm-hmm.
person.
Mm-hmm.
And the person had done a fair bit of research into this individual who popped up, and of course, all headlines aimed at that, and the ADL aimed at that, and everybody had to be talking about this guy. And it's like, God, you guys aren't even trying anymore. You're not even trying.
Yeah.
At least one can presume some reasonable doubt, not a lot, but
Mm-hmm.
some reasonable doubt in regard to Ray Epps. And the Patriot Front, or whatever the hell that was,
There,
which was
there's
a
there's some
bit
stinky stuff
cleaner.
that needs to be investigated. I
Of
want
course
to
there
know. I
is.
want to know what Ray Epps. I want to know what his role was. I
Why
want to
hasn't he been
know.
charged?
Yes, and I want to know how much of this bullshit FBI, uh, essentially trapping people into breaking the law.
Been doing it for years. They were practicing on small time cases, and now they just have gone big leagues.
That's just that's
It's
bad law
disgusting.
enforcement. Yeah,
It's
that's
it's
not.
not bad law enforcement.
It's
It's
control.
absolute hideous Mussolini style bullshit.
Yeah.
And it is utterly it, it's infuriating. I really try very, very hard not to think about some of these things, only because the degree of my anger is such. But the FBI is not fit for purpose anymore.
No, it's not. You're quite right. What
I'm sorry.
that?
One or two good agents in Paducah who bust up some child trafficking ring. Well, congratulations, but you could have done that in the local sheriff's office. Um, this
Well, it needs to be retooled. It needs to be have
retooled. Yes, blow it into 1,000 bits and
and
start
well,
over.
it's got to have upper and middle leadership changes. You've got to get rid of some of the middle managers in the FBI. It's going to be very painful.
All the field agents have been polluted by the individuals who are heading the field offices.
Yep.
So all of them need to, I mean, in other words, you need to blow it into about 1,000,000 pieces and put it back together again,
Yeah.
because it is utterly disgusting what they're doing. The nonsense that went on in Michigan alone, that
Yes.
ham-handed bullshit. You end up charging one man because everybody else was working for you.
Right.
Well, then what kind of a conspiracy is that when you're the conspirators?
Right.
This is Levantry Barius done in the Keystone Cops
Yeah.
style.
It actually is very very much like Mussolini.
It is, yeah.
Mussolini.
Teeing up the brown shirts and the black shirts.
He was famous for going into towns and causing all kinds of trouble and
And then
basic.
solving the problem.
Yeah, and then solving, quote unquote, solving the problem with his enlightened administration This is after the town has lynched the mayor because he's made out. They did all kinds of terrible things to the Italian people prior to World War II. They would do anything to harass non-conforming cities. And Italy is every little city, every little town in Italy is irritatingly independent. It's very different from the United States.
Mm-hmm.
United States, you think of yourself as we're all kind of in the same big city. We think of ourselves that way. The United States of Generica.
The Federalist
Italians,
one, in other words.
Yeah. Yes, Italians don't think of it that way. They think, oh man, no, Gubbio, we're much better than Paduli. Well, Paduli is actually shares a border with you. Oh yeah, but we're still better than they are.
It's very Starbelly Sneetches.
Very, very much so.
It's why they have such trouble maintaining national governments.
That's a great analogy.
They have a lot of trouble maintaining national governments because of that.
Yes.
Because the shifting alliances...
120 political parties.
Yeah, and 47,000 different state and local governments that have existed. That's just since World War II. I mean, since Italy is a century and a half old as a country.
Right. The interesting thing is the fact that they can't do anything as a government is
a bonus.
Yeah, it weirdly works for them.
Yeah, their political temperament to some extent is a feature, not a bug.
Right. Yeah, it is. That's a great point.
But what did you do in the war, Daddy, comes to mind. Because that's really probably not that exaggerated an image of an Italian village. What was it that Lee Marvin war movie about discovering what was it, all the wine that was under the city or something, it was just these independent operators.
Yeah.
That and settling scores the old-fashioned way.
Well, something very satisfying about that.
No, there is. And, there's a raft of memes I looked at today, most of which I agreed with, but far too many of them involved ropes and tree limbs.
Yeah, I hear you. Speaking of that sort of thing, I was listening to the White House press secretary joust with Peter Doocy today.
Oh, that must have been cute.
Well, here's the question that he asked. President Biden is the oldest president in U.S. history. Why does the White House staff treat him like a baby? Asked Doocy. And now I'm going to read you Occupy Democrats summation of this. Breaking. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre crushes Fox News hack reporter Peter Doocy for making a shockingly disrespectful question about the president, making him look like an utter fool in the process. It all started with Doocy, who reliably asks ignorant and offensive questions, taking aim at Biden. President Biden is the oldest president in U.S. history. Why does the White House staff treat him like a baby? Asked Doocy. The deeply unprofessional query perfectly encapsulates Doocy's entire style. He is not a journalist in any real sense. He's a MAGA operative auditioning for his own show on Fox News. No one treats the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, like a baby, says Jean-Pierre without missing a beat. That's a ridiculous claim, putting him in his place. Doocy doubled down on his asinine question by quoting a book that claims Biden was supposedly treated like a toddler when dealing with the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Jean-Pierre wasn't impressed. So look, I'll say this. There's going to be a range of books that are about every administration, as you know, that are going to have a variety of claims, she said. This is not unusual. That happens all the time, and we're not going to litigate those here. That's something we are not going to speak to. So this is the press agent who doesn't have information for us.
Mm-hmm.
Again and again and again.
Mm-hmm.
She does not have information for us.
Yeah, she doesn't.
Asshole.
Yeah, she is an asshole. She's an ill-tempered cunt.
Yeah. She.
There's no other word for it. She's just a snappish, waspish, ill-tempered cunt. And
She truly is an awful person.
yeah, and I mean, I detest Jen Psaki, but Jen at least had more Dana Perino in her,
Yeah.
and less "fuck you."
Yeah, fuck you. Ask me nice questions, or I'll shit on you. You know.
And even if you ask me a nice question, if you're from an outlet that I don't approve of, I'm going to be nasty as shit to you.
Right.
And if one of you upstart fuckers think from the big networks that you can ask me something complicated, I'll make you look like shit too.
And she says she walks in history because there's something about her sexual orientation, I guess, that is unusual. That's
All of us walk in history, okay? I mean,
yeah. I
it,
was walking in history the other day.
and I was walking in history. Yeah,
I just heard that song today.
Did you really?
Yeah, it's an awesome song.
I love that. I love that friggin' song.
Walking in Memphis.
And I mean, people, if I wonder if they ever look up who W.C. Handy was.
Right. Or what
bother.
It means to be 10 feet off of Beale.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know you've probably walked Beale Street. I have walked it more than I should have.
I've actually driven it.
Yeah.
Because I'm
because you're not a bar hopper. You weren't an alcoholic.
Well, I was with company that would not have approved of my doing it. Let's just put it that way.
There's something. It's kind of fun. Memphis is a fun place to get drunk in. Actually, at least I always found it that very, very hospitable. Those were the days, though. Memphis is not nice anymore. Yeah, I went up there just even in 2017 to pick someone up for the very first Minions meetup.
Mm-hmm.
And we won't name that name, just out of consideration for her. And
same person I had, my husband and I had dinner with in Memphis.
Right. Same one. And that it's just nasty. Memphis is nasty. It's nasty like South Dallas, like South Chicago.
It was fine where we were because we were right across from the ball field and right around the corner from the rendezvous.
Yeah, you're on the island of sanity downtown.
Yeah, and the Peabody's still nice, but everything else is just turned into sprawling big city rot.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, or it's like St. Louis. It's like any other.
And the part that spreads down into Mississippi gets even worse.
Yeah, it's what I'm sad about New Orleans. I mean, it's always been corrupt and teetering on the edge of absolute decay, but COVID destroyed that place.
Yeah,
that in combination with the desperate corruption of their politicians, and they're so French.
They're so French. They're so French.
And I mean, in the shitty Parisian way of being French, not the general populace of France way of being French. Let's turn New Orleans into Marseille, shall we?
By the way, Maniac Man and Assassin are here. Hi, guys. Welcome. Nice to see you guys.
That's an interesting way to describe her, Maniac Man. Thank you for that.
Like a ghetto garden tool. Oh my goodness.
I have never in my life heard a hoa described as such.
Let's see. Maniac Man, that black carpet muncher, apparently someone who eats carpets, only appears to me as having been incredibly privileged. Yes, in spite of the fact that she stands in history, she appears to have had most things go her way, and she's pretty accustomed to having it happen that way. So, good for her. I'm glad she set up her life so she gets all the things that she wants. But you will excuse me if I do not accord her even an angstrom even a microgram of respect.
No, because respect is earned and she's done nothing to do so.
Bingo.
It's the hardest thing to explain to people that respect is not something that's granted to you. What's granted to you in a civilized culture and in normal exchange is a certain understanding of human dignity. In other words, politesse. I will be polite to you, a stranger, but that does not mean I respect you. I am just treating you civilly because that's what one is supposed to do. But the respect comes with contact and knowledge, experience of an individual, determining whether they're trustworthy, whether you would grant them your respect. It's certainly not, it's my due.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous. And I mean, people are like, you have to respect. I don't have to do jack shit, number one. And no, anybody who tells me I have to respect them, I have instantaneously lost any hope of ever respecting them. Because they're making demands like a toddler.
Yeah.
And this is what comes from teaching children self-esteem, which has nothing to do with creating self-esteem.
Self-esteem doesn't help you on the MedCat, though, as Corinne Jean-Pierre found out.
Yeah,
and
so,
when she bombed,
self-esteem can't be taught.
Yeah, exactly.
It is something that develops over time if one's fortunate in their parents and their family and their teachers and mentors who
Prospero, that's
build
old
them up.
model. Hon, that's old model. Now listen, you got to get on with the program here. Self-respect is granted as soon as you're born. You take a look at both your current oppression stack and your potential oppression stack and chart your life accordingly. So if you have the proper oppression stack, being born black and female in this country, is there anything worse? Could you enter a worse state of life on this earth than to be born black and female in the United States?
You could be born black and male.
Yeah, there's that. There's this.
Or white and male.
Yeah.
Because males are getting the shitty end of the stick.
But I was being
Oh, I know.
I was being sarcastic. To be born in this country and anything means that you basically have an economic and human potential edge on any other individual in the world. There's no other country that offers the possibility to change your economic station by dint of your own effort than the United States does. Changed my mind.
Oh, yeah, correct. And the Democrat Party has been doing everything it can since the Roosevelt administration to stick spokes in the wheels of people who do so.
Mm-hmm.
They literally have been. This is one of those things that every now and then I dig it out of the box and I start thinking about it. And then I just get infuriated and I'm up until 2 o'clock in the morning having imaginary conversations with people that don't exist. Well, they did exist, but they're not in the room with me.
But getting back to Corinne Jean-Pierre, I wanted to make just one other quick point, and I promise I'm done with this bitch. And that is that to have somebody in charge of the president's press relations, I want a top-notch person. I don't want somebody who went to a small school and still couldn't hack the biology curriculum and failed out of the MedCats, got a participation degree, general studies, whatever the fuck it was, undergraduate, and then gets pulled into Columbia where they hand her into the School of International Public Affairs, and they plop down a Master of Public Affairs diploma on her I would love to see her master's thesis. Oh, I'll bet one wasn't required. It just pisses me off. It just pisses me off. And this is the person we get. We don't get a hard charge. We don't get somebody who's been amazing at all the things that they've tried. We get somebody who's technically not unqualified, and that's what the
Walter Durant.
The extra equal opportunity, the equal opportunity, the affirmative action type of press secretary that you get is somebody who wasn't demonstrably unqualified by anything specific coming in. Was not specifically unqualified. So if she's not specifically unqualified, she must be qualified. So then you instantly go, okay, look at the oppression stack and do an oppression stack analysis. Oh, we need a non-binary black woman, who's failed at everything. Mm-hmm. We got you right here. And that, I don't care that she's fluent in English and French. Fuck that. I'm fluent. I was at one time fluent in English and French. That's not a big.
English is their native language, for the love of Christ. Of course, she's fluent in it.
Yeah.
Well, should be.
Yeah, should be. She was born in Martinique and grew up speaking French and English. So I get that. But
yes, but I mean,
but you should have something else.
She went to Columbia. Come on.
No. She went to New York Institute of Technology.
Yeah, I know.
And couldn't hack it there. Okay.
I know.
And so then she gets identified. Non-binary black woman coming out of New York. We got you. We got you in the Columbia University, the SEPA.
How old was she when she moved to the States?
That's a good question. She was 5 when they moved from Martinique to Queens.
Okay, yeah, well.
And she started speaking Queens then. Her mother worked as home health aide and was active in her Pentecostal church, while her father was a taxi driver who had trained as an engineer.
Yeah, that's a story of far too many immigrants out of the islands, because the same happened to so many Cubans. He trained as an engineer, but because, sorry, that was there, not here. Mm-hmm. You have to redo too much, and nobody can afford that. That happened to a lot of Cuban immigrants.
There's a quote from Jean-Pierre that I would like to just share with you that I think highlights her racism. She talks about Barbara Jordan, and here's what she said. She said, this is Corinne Jean-Pierre speaking about Barbara Jordan. She was the first black woman in politics I had ever witnessed. In a world of pretty, pearl-wearing charmers, Jordan was substantive and authentic. Okay. Subtext is white people bad. If that's not first black woman, okay, so what color were the other people? They were white. They were the pretty pearl-wearing charmers who were not substantive and were not authentic. That is directly from her statement.
Wow, I'd like to dig up Margaret Chase Smith and say, have a gander at this, sister.
Tell our friends who Margaret Chase Smith was. The Senator Smith.
Senator Smith. She was the first female senator.
Was she the first?
Wasn't she?
I think you're right. That sounds right. But she was the first woman to represent Maine in Congress, and she was the first woman to serve in both houses of the Congress. No, you know what? There was a wife who took over for senator.
Oh,
that was the first female senator. It was. I'm gonna say. I don't know. Anyway,
she was from Maine, but almost Boston Brahmin.
Oh yeah, very much so.
If you know what I mean, but very much from Maine. She
always acted and voted like she came from Boston. I agree with that completely. She have you known many people from Maine? For some reason I have had some Mainers come through my life at different times, and there is a Maine state of mind that's different from every other part of New England, and it's the way that Oklahoma is different from every other state in the West.
Yeah, she was.
I can tell when I cross the border in Oklahoma.
Yes.
And Maine is like that. I've been to Maine, and it is like that. The people are, they're short, they're clipped, but they're friendly. They're so much friendlier than Boston people.
Well, yeah, it's much more rural.
Yeah, they do tend to be rural, and that's a good point. But anyway, how did we get off on that? Maine.
Nikita Khrushchev called her the devil in disguise of a woman.
Did he really?
Yes.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was after she.
Got to be like 1958, 59.
Yeah, hang on. Now I've lost track of it. During the Kennedy administration, Smith argued that the United States should use nuclear weapons against the Soviet Union. Then this led Khrushchev to call her a devil in disguise of a woman whose position exceeded all records of savagery. Smith later replied, Mr. Khrushchev isn't really mad at me. I'm not that important. He's angry because American officials have grown more firm since my speech.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, she was 97 when she died.
Yeah, she lived a rich and long life. Her husband was a congressman, if I recall, and she ended up winning the special election to replace him after he passed away.
Mm.
So that was, she picked up some criticism because of coattailing. But that was...
Then there was the 20-year career.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's got to count for something.
And she also called out Joseph McCarthy a little bit for his tactics, which got her some attention. But I tell you, it's interesting. She was preceded by, because she was chair of the Senate Republican Conference, and she was preceded by Leverett Saltonstall in that role. Speaking of a Brahmin name.
That's a fabled name.
Leverett Saltonstall. Yeah. Yes. It's interesting because people will talk. You hear Boston Brahmin mentioned. They're the very English accented Bostonians. The Brahmins. Even though it can sound a bit like that Pakka, that kind of thing. It's almost a straight descent from the original English settlers of Massachusetts Bay Colony, Boston Division, as opposed to Plymouth Division.
Dudley Saltonstall was the commander of the Penobscot expedition. That was a American.
Speaking of Maine,
it was practically our whole Navy during the Revolutionary War. The Penobscot expedition. I thought I'd heard that name.
But that would have been Penobscot, Massachusetts at the time, because Maine was part of Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Until it got split off.
So that's
yeah, I mean, Maine is so thinly populated by comparison.
Anyway, I was going to tell you that expedition carried a force of more than 1,000 American colonial Marines. And they were commanded by Lieutenant Colonel Paul Revere.
Aha. Good for her. Good for her. One would think he would have been a cavalry commander.
He was a he was there on some kind of special thing. He was had been asked to be a part of that. I can't remember why he was involved with that. They just were going for warriors there. They didn't even know what the Marine, the Marines, that they would get, we want you to go in and take this church and set houses on fire, and then come back to the ship.
And then get on a ship. Yeah, I mean, it was.
Yeah, that's what they would do.
It was the army without horses.
We'll wait for you.
They use ships as horses.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Which is kind of
sea
what
cavalry.
they still are. I mean, they're ground.
Oh, sea cav is a thing, but
yeah,
it's hit them hard and fast. But that was it was kind of a interesting thing. It was
basically they're modeled on the Boston Tea Party, if you think about it. Get on the ship, then carry out a mission, then get back on a ship, or go home, one or the other.
This is so funny.
Until they went to Tripoli, and then they became the expeditionary force for the United States government.
I won't give you the names of the ships. I'm just going to read the number of guns that the British squadrons had. 18 guns, 20 guns, 32 guns, 20 guns, 32 guns, 32 guns, 64 guns. Okay, now I'm going to read the American squadron. You ready? 14 guns, 14 guns, 16 guns, 16 guns, 16 guns, 20 guns. And that was all that went up against her.
Yep.
And that was in the second squadron that was commanded by Dudley Saltonstall. It's a great story. You should the Penobscot expedition and that part of the American Revolutionary War, the naval aspect of it interests me. Of course, it might not interest everybody, but yeah, and it didn't really work out very well for the Americans. I mean,
no, they were kind of
Collier and Aaron beat the shit out of them.
Yeah, they were outgunned significantly and outshipped.
Yeah, they were outshipped, and the other thing was the ship handling of the British was superior.
Well, yes,
no
because
doubt about it.
Yeah, our guys we
were learning.
Well, yes, and very few of them were.
These were guys off fishing vessels and stuff. They would go into
the there wasn't much defection from the British Navy to revolutionary forces.
Well said.
It's we're the ones that had the defector from our side to theirs.
We didn't Navy very well. Really,
we caught up rather quickly, though, didn't we?
About in the early part of the 19th century, we reached full parity very quickly, and
which really irritated them. Really, really irritated them. So they had to start impressing our sailors because they were good enough for them then. And then they had to start another fucking front on a war that they were busy fighting in Europe.
Why?
For some reason, they had to try to drag us into that.
Why do they always do that?
I don't know.
Why do European countries, when they're winning a war, commit suicide?
Yes.
I'm happy they do.
Well, they didn't completely commit suicide, thank God, because Napoleon would have done far more damage.
Can you imagine England as a French?
No.
As a part of France?
No, there would have been constant revolution.
Yeah.
And it would have been it would have just been horrible. Napoleon couldn't have held England for 15 minutes.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
Absolutely could not have. He never would have bothered. It would have been...
And not just in 1815. He couldn't have held it in 1805 either.
No.
When he was flush.
He would have just had to tariff the shit out of English goods. But they should have considered that when they opened fire on us.
There's that.
That was, something to be considered, because if they had come with palms open saying, God damn it, you bought all that land from the French, and that's what this asshole's using.
Mm-hmm.
Could you help us out here, please? We would have probably said, well, sign this peace agreement first, you jerks. And
part part of the problem was that it just took so long to get information back and forth.
No, it did, but they were also irritated as shit that we had absolutely trebled our land while they were holding their piss willy holdings in Canada, and the French were still fucking with them up there.
Yes.
And
some of the speeches in Parliament that were made about the relative difference in size, you can still find those, and they're hilarious. They were really pissed off about
that. They were
pissed.
absolutely butthurt. It was like, oh my God, their dick's bigger than ours. And it really is that. So much of that is at the heart of it.
Yeah.
And that the danger was we were going to be able to outcompete them in the world market because we weren't playing the same games with the Europeans. And we were not at war with Napoleon. And there had been far too much sympathy for the French Revolution out of United States political circles.
We're probably lucky Napoleon wanted to have war with his own country. More than he wanted to, almost more than he wanted to succeed, frankly.
Yeah.
Was, he was going to be stopped at some point. He was running out of all the things supply corps officers help you with. And he, even if he had broken through at Waterloo,
the Prussians were going to take him out.
The Prussians were going to take him out, and the other thing was his army was dissolving. People were just leaving. But fuck this! No, don't need to get killed. For la France, bye.
Yeah, well, they'd had 20 years of blood-soaked soil in France at that point, and it was getting
tired
old.
Of his shit at that point.
Yeah, it was getting old. I mean, between the Revolution and then Napoleon coming along, and at first he is a blessed sigh of relief from a lot of the nonsense, and he was actually quite gifted. It's a shame somebody didn't notice him as a corporal.
He didn't come from the right family.
Might have unbent his ego a little. Yes, because he was a Corsican.
Right. And his punishment.
He was a filthy, dark-skinned Mediterranean.
Exactly.
I mean, to a Parisian, that would have been exactly the issue. Which is, it was unfortunate because they were missing the fact that he was far cleverer than anyone was giving him credit for, as opposed to that silly German corporal, who it was only simply because of industry was able to last as long as he did doing the horrible things he did.
Yep.
Because the Germans have always been remarkably industrious.
Absolutely. And they're OCD, too.
Yes.
As a people, I will say they are
bureaucratic as fuck.
Yeah, bureaucratic as fucking OCD. It's a terrible combination.
Yeah, I mean, it's like suddenly saying that the Italians are going to run your government and the Germans are going to run your kitchen. That is a kitchen nightmare.
Yeah.
Front of house will be utterly chaotic.
French are going to be in charge of efficiency.
And the back of the house, somebody's going to be measuring the spätzle to make sure they're exactly the same length.
Right.
There'll be no creativity here.
No. This is Germany.
And what they lack in creativity, they make up for in hive mind. And
boy, that's the truth.
And they were just bent about Alsace-Lorraine, so he was able to levy that, and they had reason to be bent. The peace accords at the end of World War I were a fucking disaster. The Treaty of Paris was a nightmare, and Woodrow Wilson was partially responsible for that. He's not entirely responsible for it. The vindictive fucking French.
They were the ones who were offended by the Boche, killing 100,000 Frenchmen.
Which, yes, and the English.
That would piss me off.
Well, it would piss me off too. I mean, but the English had lost a large number of people, and I think we're willing to be more.
At the Somme, didn't they lose 28,000 people in one day?
I think so. But it had become pretty much an equal bloodbath
Yeah, it was.
of
It really
trench
was.
warfare. The Germans had lost an enormous amount of people at that point.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as far as counting coup that way, it wasn't that was ineffective. The United States coming into the war actually signaled to the Germans that it was going to go on forever and ever, so they were going to have to sue for peace
Yeah.
because they simply couldn't sustain it.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention things were falling apart behind them in the east,
Yes.
and they were going to be in danger from another front. Um, Conceivably, because their cousin was no longer in power. They were all cousins except the French
Yes.
part. The French side, they weren't related, but the English, the Germans, and the Russians
Well,
were all.
they actually
They were all
are.
cousins.
The French are even related. It's just the break is far, far, far back.
Yeah, it all goes through the Danish royals of some
Right.
point
Right.
back in the Middle
Exactly
Ages.
right. Exactly right. Yeah.
Because even the Greek throne, it was Danish. I mean, that's the peculiarity there. That's why Philip was related to Elizabeth. Again, through that Danish line. It's why that the genetic.
Philip of Spain.
No, Philip Mountbatten.
Oh. Much later than what I'm talking about. Yeah, I'm talking about 300
Yeah,
years.
no, Philip Spain, the Habsburgs. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Please, let's not even talk about that inbred group of knee knocking
God,
twits.
the Habsburgs.
Her chin alone is
Is,
terrifying.
is that the most scary bunch of inbreds you ever saw?
I get it is absolutely that it's the
Let me see
the
if I can
Spanish
find-
Habsburgs
Keep
are
talking.
the,
I want to find some
are the most
Habsburgs.
terrifying of all the Habsburgs. The Austro-Hungarian Habsburgs. By the time that all settles down, and you're just dealing with Austria-Hungary, they don't seem to be quite as related to them. You know, but like literally, the Spanish line was their own grandpa. They
Yes.
they were literally their own grandpa. I mean, it wasn't. It was like they were their own great uncle at one point or something. Hideous. It's like somebody's married to their aunt and then they're married to their cousin's sister's daughter. It was just yes.
Look at these guys. These were.
The chin just gets worse and worse and
Oh
worse.
my God! It is so bad. It is so bad. Oh.
Only a relative would marry that.
Or actually, there you go.
Well, it's like the poor chick and the one on the left. They got her because her chin receded rather than protruded.
There's Charles II of Spain.
I mean,
Welcome to the family.
Yeah, no, seriously sad. Thorough and complete inbreeding. I'm absolutely amazed there weren't more idiots, literal idiots in the family.
Well, yeah.
I think maybe there may have been.
There are. You just don't read about them.
Yeah, they were.
Sometimes their names aren't even recorded for posterity.
Perhaps some of the little people in Las Meninas, Velázquez's painting, might actually be related. No doubt they were by blow.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Off somebody's sister's sister's sister.
Oh,
I mean, honest to God, people make jokes about Alabama and Arkansas and West Virginia and all that kind of stuff and cousin fuckers. No, these people literally were like sister brother fuckers.
Pretty close.
And for generations.
Pretty close. That's what the Egyptians did.
Oh, of course they did, which
They
is
had
why they
brothers
were
marrying
dying
sisters.
at 14.
Yeah, they were a mess.
I mean,
They just didn't
Tutankhamun
know.
was young and he died most likely due to some kind of hideous genetic defect.
Yep. They probably had muscular dystrophy or something.
Or just
Just some horrible.
he was his own grandpa.
I mean, the Spanish Habsburg family tree, is
Just stick.
can you see this clearly enough? So
It's almost a circle.
it is. It's almost a circle, isn't it?
Yeah, I know people make jokes about them being sticks, but it's almost a circle. I mean, it
Yeah.
is.
See Phillips the second. That's what I was talking about. And his line, you know, his line had all the cousins that married each other, basically. Margaret and Ferdinand and Maria Anna of Bavaria. I haven't thought about that name since probably my world history course, my British history course.
No, the Habsburgs, it's an annoying study, the Spanish Habsburgs. They're just,
Yeah.
it's just very annoying. Spanish history overall is very annoying.
I mean, just and just
Mainly because the very busy part of it is the goddamn Habsburgs. And it's just like, you're like, make it stop, please, for the love of God. I mean, they come prancing along and just, it's like war after subsidiary war. And
brothers and sisters shouldn't marry. I'm against it. Just don't do it.
yeah, please.
The Grand Inquisitor has arrived. Yo, fam. My dude.
Me.
Oh, Costin's here. I didn't say hi to Costin. Hey, Costin, you can blame me.
Costin!
Start blaming me. Lisa's here too.
I'm gonna have to boogie.
Yeah, it's time for me to go to bed. It's been a long couple of days, and it always is.
No, I'm sorry about the
Oh, I didn't
weather.
see your comment, Spud. I'm sorry. Yeah, you said this is my jam. I am so sorry. I did not see that, and I
We'll revisit it.
Discord. Yeah, we will revisit it. Just to do that, to have you on, let's make a point of it next week, and hit me up in DMs, and I'll make sure that you get a link. Come and join us. We'd love to have any of you guys are welcome on the show. We'd love to have you on. Yeah, and but anyway, I do want to thank chat for coming out tonight, and thank my old buddy Prospero for hanging with me for an hour. We don't talk as much as we used to, but it's still wonderful when we get a chance to, and I truly enjoy this, Prospero.
Yeah, it is fun. It's just kind of. Oh God, I'm so sorry, Spud. I wasn't even looking at chat.
Yeah.
This is how unkind I am. When we have Jenna on with us, she's always the sweet, gentle soul that pays attention to chat. Skep and I just disappear up our own asses.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got to be used to that by now.
Usually, I have about 20 tabs open, and I'm looking
we didn't
at information
do maps
on different things
today, so you're not all shit faced. But when it comes to covering the World War I jam next week, Spud, we'll have maps.
We will do it. We will do it, and we will have Spud Gun on next week. And we will talk about World War I.
Just don't make me read Proud Tower, please.
Why don't I know that? Proud Tower.
Wasn't that Barbara Tuchman's book about World War I, the lead up to World War
I? Oh, I did not. The Proud Tower. Yeah.
Yeah, I read that ages ago, and oh God, it was agony. World War I is like my least favorite war in history, only because it's just so frustrating. You know what I mean? It's a very fucking frustrating war to read about anything leading up to it, because I tell you, late 19th century history, even in Europe, is boring as shit. And it's terribly boring in the United States. It's mostly financial history.
Yeah.
Or petty, stupid bullshit.
Proud Tower.
Yeah.
A Portrait of the World Before the War, 1896 to 1914, by Barbara Tuchman.
Yeah, I had to read that before my senior year in high school when I took AP European Civ.
She's a decent historian. She was back then.
Yeah, she is, but that was like that's not my bag. it turned out that the Tudors and the Stuarts and the Renaissance and Reformation were really more my bag. But
anyway, be that as it may, I do appreciate you, and I appreciate you coming on and being a part of this and being a loyal member of the show. But that's going to do it for us tonight, everybody. I want to thank you for coming out, and going to end the broadcast this evening.